Welcome to the Sleep Dives channel. We're diving deep into profound stories by John Willis and Derek Lewis to uncover the unseen architects. These are the hidden figures, the overlooked systems, the people whose quiet contributions literally built our modern world, often without getting any of the credit.
When you think about that question, your mind probably jumps to the big names in the history books, the generals, the presidents, the famous inventors. But what if the real story, the one with the most profound impact, is about the people we've never even heard of? The ones working quietly in the background, solving problems we didn't even know existed.
And our first unseen architect is the perfect example of this. Her name was Lola Shoup, a truly brilliant statistician and chemist working for the US government, whose incredible mind was put to work on a task that seems, well, almost absurd.
Yeah, this really just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have Lola Shoup's published work. We're talking complex, high-level scientific research. And on the other side, the task the bureaucracy handed her: figure out 5 standard clothing sizes for teenage girls, all because a mail-order catalog company asked for it. I mean, what a staggering waste of talent. And this whole project was a masterclass in bureaucratic folly. The company wanted 5 simple sizes. Right away, Lola Shoup runs the numbers and proves, hey, this isn't going to work for half the population. But did that stop them? Nope. It took 11 years of ridiculous back and forth to finally agree on a standard. And the punchline, by 1983, the whole thing was quietly scrapped. All that work, all that data, all of Shoup's time just gone.
And it wasn't just her work that was wasted. Her very identity was basically erased. After she married the now famous statistician W. Edwards Deming, this is how her local paper announced her continued research. For the rest of her life, despite all her important contributions, she was never again credited as a co-author. She just became professionally invisible.
This pattern of people's contributions getting lost, it happens even with our most famous icons. Let's take one of the most recognizable symbols of the 20th century, Rosie the Riveter. Even here, the true story was hiding in plain sight for decades.
We all know this poster, right? It's instantly recognizable. We can do it. It's come to represent millions of women who flooded the workforce during World War II, taking on these tough, vital industrial jobs to help the war effort. It's just such a powerful symbol of strength. But here's the thing. That poster was based on a real photograph of a real woman working in a factory. So, who was she? Well, for decades, the world had the completely wrong answer.
For the better part of a century, if you looked in a history book or went to a museum, they'd all tell you it was a woman named Geraldine Doyle. It was just accepted as fact. But it was a huge case of mistaken identity that lasted a lifetime.
The real woman. Her name was Naomi Parker. In 1942, she was just 20 years old, working at a naval air station in Alameda, California, when a photographer just happened to snap her picture. And get this, for years, she knew it was her in that famous photo, but nobody would believe her. It wasn't until a really determined professor finally hunted down the original photo, caption and all, that she was proven right.
And when she was finally recognized at 95 years old, after a whole lifetime of being overlooked, a reporter asked her how it felt. Her answer was just one single perfect word: victory.
Now, it's so important to understand that the work these Rosies like Naomi Parker were doing, this wasn't just about boosting morale. It had direct life or death consequences. And you can see that nowhere clearer than in one of the most dangerous missions of the entire war, flying the hump over the Himalayas. The scale of this operation is just mind-boggling. 650,000 tons of cargo. That's what Allied pilots were hauling from India to China, flying over the highest mountain range on Earth. This route was an absolute lifeline, and it was unbelievably dangerous.
The conditions these pilots faced were just apocalyptic. The weather could flip on a dime, turbulence so bad it could literally turn a plane upside down. You're flying through this narrow corridor where mountains just appear out of the clouds. The radios were just a constant stream of mayday calls. Over 1,500 people were killed flying this route. Your survival came down to one thing: the quality of the plane you were flying.
And that's where it all connects. The main plane they were using, the C-46 Commando, it actually had some pretty serious problems at first. It was the sheer dedication to quality from the workers back home, the thousands of Rosies just like Naomi Parker, that made the difference. They made critical improvements, built stronger engines, tougher airframes. They're the ones who gave those pilots a fighting chance. So after the war, these same ideas, these principles of statistics and quality, the very things championed by people like Lola Shoup's husband, W. Edwards Deming, they went from helping win a war to literally building the modern world. Deming basically took his show on the road. He was in Greece for their first post-war elections. He was in India advising on their first national census after independence. He served on a UN commission. He consulted for Germany, Mexico, Turkey, you name it. His work in using statistics to make sure things like a census were accurate, that became the very bedrock for these new and rebuilding democracies.
Okay, so what does all this mean for us, right here, right now? How do we take these incredible stories and apply them to our own lives? Well, it all starts with learning to see the unseen. First off, start actively looking for the hidden work that's happening all around you. Acknowledge the people whose contributions are absolutely essential, but who maybe don't get the spotlight. Second, value every single role. Because as we've seen, the quality that goes into a seemingly small task can have enormous consequences. And finally, just be curious. Challenge the official story. Ask, wait, who else was part of this? Who else deserves the credit here?
Look, the big mistake we all make is just focusing on the person with the fancy title, the famous name at the top. The practical tip? Shift your focus. Credit the process. Credit the system. Credit the entire team that made something happen, not just the person who got to cut the ribbon at the end.
All right, let's just quickly recap the big ideas here. Our world is literally built by these unseen architects. Wasting incredible talent like what happened to Lola Shoup is a profound loss. Getting recognition like Naomi Parker fought for isn't just nice, it's a fundamental human need. And finally, quality in the little things can be the difference between life and death. And that really leaves us with one final question for you to think about. I want you to look around at your job, in your community, even in your own family. Who are the unseen architects in your world? Who's doing that quiet, essential work that makes everything else run? And what profound systems are they building right now, right under our noses?